Writing Out Loud, a program designed to explore in-depth interviews with writers to hear that words have voices.
Hello everyone, I'm Teresa Miller and welcome to Writing Out Loud. My very special guest today is best-selling author Jim Stovall. Jim, we're going to be talking about your new film, The Ultimate Life.
Well, it is great to be back with you. It's always good to get invited, but it's really special when you get invited back.
Well, you're one of our all-time favorites. The Ultimate Life's a sequel to The Ultimate Gift. In what ways do these two films complement each other?
Well, The Ultimate Life is both a sequel and a prequel. We actually took my next two books, The Ultimate Life and The Ultimate Journey, and combined those two stories into one movie. So we go forward with the characters, but then through a journal we flashback and we meet these characters during the Great Depression and World War II and the early oil days of Oklahoma and Texas and a lot of fun things. So people get to meet Red Stevens and Hamilton, and for those who have seen The Ultimate Gift, it'll be a great time to meet old friends. And if you haven't seen it, it doesn't matter. We get you up to speed quickly in The Ultimate Life.
What is it about Red Stevens that makes him such a powerful force, even from beyond the grave?
I think he is a great character because he's powerful, he's a superhero in the terms we all think about in being rich and famous, but he's also flawed. We all can see some of ourselves in him, and that's where I think people can identify with a character. I can't identify with Superman. I'm closer to Clark Kent a lot of days, and you try to think about that. So I think that's what makes a fun character.
Have you ever known anyone like Red?
Yes, I have known several people like Red that I put together, and I think any writer of fiction, if they're truly honest, their characters are an amalgamation of a lot of people they've known. And when you write all kinds of different books like I do, you start getting cards and letters from old friends and some friends you don't even know from around the world, and they wonder am I that character or am I this character? And the answer is always yes and no.
To what extent has Red been a mentor to you as well as to Jason?
I think Red was a mentor to me because his values, his words, his wisdom is everything I wish I were. And, there's a little bit of Red and a little bit of Jason in all of us. And so Red enabled me to get in touch with that deeper, better part of myself. And I always tell my audiences at the arena event, I haven't arrived. Please do not miss the power of the message due to the weakness of the messenger. I'm just a fellow traveler here, and these are some things that I wished I could do better.
In The Ultimate Life, Jason is a man in crisis. What do you see as his greatest weakness?
Well, Jason comes out of the first movie and the first book, The Ultimate Gift, with $2 billion and a lot of lessons, and he's got some knowledge but no wisdom. He knows some things but has no experience, and in the process of going through some of the experiences his grandfather went through, he starts becoming flawed like his grandfather, who he totally resented, and now he starts to understand him. It's kind of like when you go through a crisis in your life and you start hearing yourself talk and you sound just like your parents.
What's his greatest strength?
Jason's greatest strength is that he understands he's flawed, he's teachable, he's learnable. Jason is not a bad guy. Jason is who we all would be with unlimited resources and no responsibility.
Well said. You picked Michael Landon to direct the film, Michael Landon Jr. Why was he the perfect choice for The Ultimate Life?
Well, we got down to 2 or 3 people, and whether it's an actor, a director, anybody that's going to be involved in a project I'm in, the number one thing I look for is someone that really wants to do the project. They want to be a part of this, and Michael really saw a lot in this and was a fan of the Ultimate Gift book and movie and really wanted to do it, and it's been a great tool for us. And then I got to work with him on set quite a bit, and I find his style to be completely engaging, and he understands the actors, works very, very well with them, and it's kind of a quiet, calm set he runs, and it's very nice.
Did Michael's take on the film give you any new insights into your own characters?
I think so, because when you really think about Michael Landon growing up in his father's home, and one of the stalwarts of the early television industry, and certainly a multimillionaire, he kind of had that Jason and Red Stevens experience with his father. And his father was gone a lot, and his father probably did as much as Red Stevens as far as delivering values to several generations of people.
Tell us about the cast.
Well, the movie opens with, of course, James Garner, and I love that. And I think our movie opens with, I think, one of the best scenes he ever shot. He did it all in one take, and it was a powerful thing. And it was the last scene of The Ultimate Gift, and it starts this movie. And it's always great to have him. And then we add Peter Fonda to the story. And I wrote this old, crusty cowboy character that had been alive in the 1880s and 1890s as a cowboy figure, but had lived on, and as an old man, he's during the Depression, and he is a rancher now in Texas, named Jacob Early, and young Red Stevens and Gus Caldwell encounter him as teenagers, and they get to learn to build a fence and a whole lot of other things.
Do you have any good behind-the-scenes stories about Peter Fonda?
Peter Fonda, it's interesting. We were on a conference call, and a lot of the movie team, and he was on because he was doing some publicity, and Michael Landon was on because he was doing a New York show. And the studio, once a week, we have these conference calls. Well, my parents live here in Tulsa, and the retirement center that my father ran for many years, they were naming the theater the Stovall Theater in honor of my father's work. And so when I got on this call, I said, guys, you'll forgive me. I gotta bail out of here at the top of the hour because they're naming a theater after my father. And Michael Landon said, that happened to me. And Peter Fonda said, me too. I've done that. So when I got there for the ceremony for my father at the theater, I said, Dad, you'll be happy to know we just joined the Landons and the Fondas because we got a theater named after us now.
And you're back in your recurring role as a limo driver.
Yes, my fourth time to be the limo driver, and it's still just something makes sense to me about having the blind guy drive the limo, and it's always kind of a fun little thing for me.
You told us a great story before we went on the air about when you were playing the limo driver and the miking process. I wonder if you might share it with us.
Well, I was joking with Michael Landon when I was there because my little brief scene, when you see it in The Ultimate Life, takes a few seconds, but it takes them hours to shoot it, and we're freezing to death. It's late at night, and I'm out in the middle of the street, and I'm dropping gorgeous young actress Allie Hillis off as she, in our story, is going to a restaurant, and her fiance has reserved the entire restaurant, and he's going to ask her to marry him. Well, as I let her out of the limousine and things, and we do these various takes, we're so far from the set and where they're shooting it, because Michael Landon wanted a long shot, we had to be on battery packs with our microphone. Well, for a guy like me, they just snake it up through my tuxedo and put it on my belt, and I'm good to go. But when they got out Allie's battery pack, she, where are you going to put this on this little dress she's got? So they put a strap, Velcroed a strap under her dress on her thigh and attached that microphone battery pack to that. So I was telling Michael Landon, I learned something technically about the business. I try to learn something every time I do my little cameo. When you attach that battery pack to a guy like me under my tuxedo jacket, that battery pack will go 4 or 5 hours. You don't even have to touch it. But when you put it on Allie Hillis's thigh under her dress, those tech guys, now they have to check that battery after every take, double check the battery, the wiring, everything. And I got to tell you, those guys were diligent. After every, as soon as he said cut, they were checking under her dress and checking that out. So you really got to appreciate how professional these tech guys are.
You've already announced that The Ultimate Journey is the last book in your Ultimate series. How hard is it going to be to let that go?
Well, it was hard to let it go, and I let some of the characters go, but then I kind of started a new generation with The Gift of a Legacy. So they kind of come back again. It's really hard to let that go, obviously, because I keep writing those. So, that trilogy will stand alone with Red and Jason and Brian Dennehy, but I took Jason as a standalone character in Hamilton and moved them forward into The Gift of a Legacy, and it kind of continues, but as I say after every one of those books, I think that'll be my last one, but you never know, because sometimes there's just these characters have more to say.
What special themes are you hoping to share with us in this new series, The Gift of a Legacy?
Well, The Gift of a Legacy came out of a speaking engagement I had right here in Oklahoma. I was out in Alva, Oklahoma, of all places, and had been booked to speak at this university, and they put me up in this 100-year-old bed and breakfast, this big rambling mansion of a thing, and I'm staying in this, and while I'm there, I'm reading the audiobook of Clint Eastwood's life story and how he had written and shot his Academy Award-winning film in 28 days. And I thought, well, you got to have the right story. And he talked about how he made the town into the set and almost made the town a character that he shot around. And I thought, I need a story like that. And I'm sitting in this rambling old monstrosity of a bed and breakfast, and I thought, this is it. So I created a bed and breakfast, and this 100-year-old lady, Sally Mae Anderson, and her great-grandson Joey, and she's going to pass this along to him, but he doesn't have the wherewithal to do it. And this has become a place, Anderson House, where people, world leaders and thought provokers and stars and politicians and great people from all around the world come to gather and meet and talk and things, and it's become quite a place. And she just doesn't know that he's ready to do that, so she needs somebody to come in and influence her great-grandson Joey and enter Jason Stevens, and that's kind of how it comes about.
You began The Gift of a Legacy, like you do so many of your books, with an open appeal to your readers. You include your email address, your phone number. Is that for real?
Yeah. Somebody who counts those things told me between my 20 or 25 titles now, I have 10 million books in print, and every one of them's got my phone number in it, and I answer all those calls or return them all. And I have people all around the world that call me, and had a lady call the other day from New Zealand. I have no idea what time you got to wake up in New Zealand to call me in Oklahoma, but she did. And I got on the phone. I said, "Hi, this is Jim. What can I do for you?" She said, "Well, really nothing. I didn't believe you'd really talk to me." And I always tell my audiences and my readers, if you want to just call and see if I'll really call you back, do it, because I always want people to know the darkest it ever seems and the most difficult it ever feels, you got one guy believes in you and believes in your dream, and if you don't think so, call the number.
Have any of these calls changed you as a writer?
Totally. One of the, I spend my time doing a lot of public speaking. I get to speak to literally millions of people in arena events, and I get to meet a lot of people. And then writing is a very solitary thing, or for me, I dictate to one person, but it's all this stream of consciousness. And you can lose sight of the fact that there are real people on the other end that live in different places and times and cultures and all these things that are absorbing these words. And those calls have made me very cognizant of that.
Several of your books include quotes from a virtually unknown poet. Introduce her to us.
Well, actually, Joy Kanellakis was from Arkansas City, Kansas. And there's a lady in my office, all of my books, all of my screenplays, my weekly syndicated columns, hundreds of those, I dictate everything to Dorothy. And, to me, the printed word is a mystery. To me, a book is like you and I are talking now. Sentences and paragraphs and chapters, that's something somebody else worries about. Well, Dorothy is a great grammarian, a great editor, and she fixes all of those things. Well, one day I remember Dorothy got a call from Ark City, Kansas, and her mother was very ill, and they didn't think she'd be with us long, so Dorothy rushed up there to Kansas and did get to visit her mother before she passed. And her mother said, after I'm gone, there's this box in my closet you'll want to look at. And after her mother had died, Dorothy got it down, and Dorothy and her sister went through this and found dozens of poems her mother had written throughout her life over decades of time, and just some true masterpieces. And so I wrote a book called, her name was Joy Kanellakis, so I wrote a book called Discovering Joy, about discovering the poems and how that came about, but also how we all have things inside of us that may be more than meets the eye.
Why do you think Joy's words especially resonate with you?
I think they're heartfelt. They come out of her experience. She didn't write with the thought in mind anybody was ever going to read these things. She put them in a box. So they were very heartfelt. They were very meaningful. They were very deep. They were based on her real life. She wasn't trying to impress anybody or create a bestseller, and she was just trying to share her experiences, and they're real everyday experiences.
Do you think it's part of your ultimate journey to bring this larger audience to her work?
Yes, I am very pleased. I have put several of her poems in the beginning of some of my books, but through this book, Discovering Joy, people all around the world will get to experience her work, and I have plans in the deep, demented recesses of my mind that Discovering Joy may be a movie. I'd like to show how these poems came to see the light of day, but then I want to create a fictional account of how they go around the world, and maybe some vignettes of people who were impacted by her words.
Who would play Joy?
It would have to be like we did with the James Garner character. We'd have to get 2 or 3 people, and it's a good question. I don't know. I haven't seen that character yet, but of course I would have to have Dorothy involved with who do you want to play your mother.
Sure.
When we got the actors to play the younger 2 versions of Red Stevens, we actually got Gigi Garner, James Garner's daughter, as a casting person out in LA, and she came in and helped us find a young man to play her father as a teenager, and then someone to play her dad in middle age, and actually showed him the screen tests and everything of those guys, and it was fun. But I would have to think about that, and it's really weird. The role of the character in your mind takes on new life at that point in time. So it's a lot of fun.
You love making movies, don't you?
Yeah, Teresa, I believe that if William Shakespeare, the Apostle Paul, or Mark Twain were alive today, they'd still be writing, but I believe they'd be making movies. Because there are millions of people that read my books, but there are millions more that I don't care what I write. They're not going to read that. But they'll go to a movie theater and see that movie, and then when it touches them in the right way, a lot of them go back and they actually pick up a book and become readers.
We also want to talk about your book, The Millionaire Map. What was your primary goal with this book? You describe it as a guide.
Yeah, I meet a lot of people who are encouraged or motivated or really feel enthused about my work, and they're all dressed up, but they have nowhere to go. They don't know, what do I do now? I mean, I'm really excited about something, but I'm not sure what. What am I going to do now? And there's probably no one watching us right now that's been any more impoverished than me. You've never met anybody more broke or scared or destitute than I was, and thankfully you'll meet very few people that have ever been wealthier than I've been privileged to be and am today. And so I thought I need to share that actual experience, not a theory, not some kind of lesson, but this is what happened to me and how it happened and what I think people ought to do. And it actually takes people through this, because one of the first lessons in the Millionaire Map is never take advice from anybody that doesn't have what you want. And there's all kinds of guys running all over the country telling you how to get rich, and they can't pay attention. They don't know anything, and they don't have anything. And so one of the most difficult things I had to do in the Millionaire Map book was heed my own words, and I talked to my wife Crystal and my family, and I said, if I really am going to do this, we are going to publish a website, and there is going to be an up-to-date financial statement there showing our net worth and what it is, and when this book comes out, that will be there at themillionairemap.com, and that's a hard thing to do, but I said, if we believe this, we got to do it.
Wow, that's very, very impressive. What are some of the misconceptions about great wealth?
Well, most people think, if you ask most people, how did people become wealthy, they'll say they inherited it. The important thing to realize is that 90% of self-made millionaires are first generation. 90% of all people that have $1 million net worth or more earned it themselves. Only 10% inherit it. And ironically, of those that inherit it in the first generation, very few pass it on to their kids in the second. Because money is not the key to wealth. Knowledge is the key to wealth. If we took all the money in the world and divided it up evenly, in a few short years, it'd be back where it is today. People who have money know how to make money. People who don't know how to make money and handle it, you can give them all the money in the world. They'll go through it. All you need to do is look at the lottery winners and look at how many of them are broke in a few short years.
You talk about the poverty you experienced. Was there a pivotal moment when everything changed for you?
Yes, and I've condensed it down to one thing. I mean, Crystal and I, we were, I say we were poor. We weren't poor because poor people can't get that far in debt. I don't know what we were, but they say everybody starts at zero. We had to crawl our way up to zero to start. But we used to go to the grocery store every week. I would go with her because I didn't have anything else to do, and I used to carry all my money and net worth in the front pants pocket of my jeans. And Crystal had a little calculator, and we would go up and down the aisles figuring out what we could afford to eat for this week until my money ran out, and then we would check out and go home. That was our life. Well, one week, Providence would have it that somehow we miscalculated. And right there in front of all of our friends and neighbors and the girl at the checkout stand, my wife Crystal had to take a loaf of bread and go put it back. And I don't know what it was about that one humiliating moment, but I said, I don't care what it takes. If it's legal, moral, and ethical, Jim is not going to be poor anymore. And that began an odyssey and a quest for me. And I've learned so much about money. It's not about wealth and the things I have. It's I heard a man once say the most fun you'll ever have with money is giving it away. And when I was broke, I couldn't believe that. And now I found it to be true.
Do you think that money carries a great responsibility with it?
Totally does. Because of the ultimate gift, I have an opportunity to do a lot of billionaire family retreats where they will have me in to talk to their second and third generation, and they show the movie and the kids read the book and we talk about it. And you know, money doesn't solve your problems. It solves some and creates more. And with that does come a big responsibility. And every dollar you get, part of it you should spend and enjoy, part of it you should save and invest, and part of it you should give away. Every dollar. People who tell me, well, once I get rich, then I'm going to become a giver, never happens. If you're not giving part of your money today, you should be. No matter how much or little you have, every dollar should be spent, a portion should be saved, and a portion should be given away.
Who are some of the millionaires, billionaires that you look to as good role models?
Well, three of them allowed me to put their stuff on the back of the book. Steve Forbes, Donald Trump, and Ted Turner. And all completely different people, you know, and have all impacted me in different ways. But they manage their money for good in their own unique personal way. It just fits their personality.
Tell us how you're doing good with what you've accumulated.
We've been privileged through our scholarship fund. We started 25 years ago. Crystal and I met at Oral Roberts University here in Tulsa, and back then, boy, we didn't have any money. We didn't even know anybody that had any money. We just decided if we ever got out of school and could make a difference for some other kids, we would. And we started a little scholarship 25 years ago, and very pleased we've sent over 500 kids to college. And then last fall we opened the new administrative center, the Stovall Administrative Center on the campus there, and it's the biggest check I've ever written for that building, and give it away. And then we do a lot of projects in Haiti and with disaster relief, and we help elderly people with air conditioning here in Oklahoma, because next time you're out in the parking lot trying to survive for 10 minutes, you got to remember there are people that live in this day and night, and for some people it's uncomfortable, but for elderly men and women it's life and death. So a lot of those things we do, and now I'm out spending a certain amount of my time encouraging more people of wealth to be more intentional about their giving.
What role does luck play in acquiring wealth?
You know, it's interesting when Dr. Tom Stanley, who wrote The Millionaire Next Door, when he surveyed millionaires all across the country, and people attributed their wealth to certain things, luck was always in the top 5 things that they thought. You know, it's a matter of being in the right place at the right time, but being aware of it. You know, the whole world's praying for a great idea, and the only thing you got to do to have one is go through your daily life, wait for something bad to happen, and ask yourself, how could I have avoided that? And that's a great idea. And the only thing you got to do to have a great business is ask yourself one more question: what could I do to help other people avoid that problem? And the answer to that is always a great opportunity. So luck is a factor, but I think we're all lucky, and some people realize it and some don't.
Even as we speak, Jim, we know that there are people out there who don't know when or if their next meal is coming. What special message do you have for them? I believe that the universe is limitless. I believe there are many, many opportunities out there.
And I know it's difficult when you're in that situation, but the answer is not focusing on your problem. The answer is focusing on creating value in the lives of other people. When I worried about my own poverty, I was just poor and getting poorer. But when I realized the only people that make money work at a mint, the rest of us have to earn money, and the only way we earn money, Teresa, is we create value in the lives of other people. So if you'll get your focus off of yourself and your own poverty and think for a minute, what could I do right now today to create some value for somebody else? And it may not be money. Maybe it's just being encouraging or giving them a quick call. Or what can I do? What 10 things could I do today to create value for other people?
Do you think you'll ever be able to put the memories of your own poverty behind you?
I hope not. I was sitting in Steve Forbes' office not long ago, and we did a little video for a special feature for a DVD. He did a cameo in a movie for me, and I put a little feature on. And we were sitting there, and he always makes fun of me because he and Trump always kind of have a rivalry going. And
Yeah.
I always stay down at Donald Trump's and then come down to Forbes' office for my interview. And he and I were sitting there solving the world's problems and doing the video. And you know, I realized he grew up this way. And he was wealthy. He was Malcolm Forbes' kid. And he's never known the excitement of the first dollar. And I said, Steve, you will never understand, but I hope this always is as cool as it is now, because this is great. And only when you've been hungry can you enjoy that first bite. And man, when you've been poor, to be able to have enough for yourself, and then the real excitement of turning around to somebody else and saying, I want you to have this.
Jim, we just have a few seconds left. Are you living the ultimate life?
Yes, one day at a time, but I certainly anticipate it getting better.
Okay, and how so?
More books, more messages, more life, you know, living and giving and sharing. Our purpose in life is to find our gift, and our meaning is to give it away, and that's what we're doing.
Do you have hopes that one day your sight will be restored?
You know, I've had sight, and sight's a precious gift, but somehow in losing my sight, I captured a vision of who I could be, and I would never trade this vision for that sight. And so I don't think about it that often. I'm the luckiest guy I know. I've never met anybody I would trade places with, and this seems normal to me. If they come up with some Star Trek development that would allow me to see, I'll be the first one in line. But for now, I'm just happy with vision.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Jim, and thank all of you for joining us on Writing Out Loud.